Hello, and welcome to One Spark Stories, the podcast where innovators, creators, and some unsuspecting risk takers share about navigating highs and lows, laughter and tears, and how sometimes all it takes is one spark of inspiration to find your way to happiness. This podcast will leave you inspired to take action on your own purpose as we connect, create, and celebrate unique sparks around the globe, once again proving that it is a small world after all. Believe it or not, like it or not, it's the end of the year. Somehow, quite frankly, I don't know certain months happened. Do you ever feel that way where you're going through the motions, you're busy, and then all of a sudden you blink and it's like, where did that month go? Thankfully, the holidays have been a wonderful slowdown that really my family needed. And as a result, it also gave me plenty of time to think through the things that I would say maybe I could have done a little bit better on this year. You know, it's that season of reflection. And so as a result, I wanted to put together this list of 6 failures and what to do next. Now, these are things that I have really reflected on in my own journey, but after talking to people throughout the year on this podcast and just in general conversation, it seems to me that these may resonate with you. And so in the spirit of flipping a failure into your next greatest success, I wanted to make sure that I don't just unload on you and say, here's all the things I really screwed up, and instead give us all something to take away from it. So the first one was me trying to stick with a 9-to-5 schedule. Now, this might seem odd, but it's important to remember that as I have branched into the entrepreneurial world, I am leaving behind a very regimented career. When I was in education, I had certain hours that I had to be at the schools. I have always had to get my kids up and out the door for before school and after school care, the bus, all of these things. And so I come from a very regimented world. The biggest mistake I have made this year, especially early on, was trying to stick to that schedule. And in turn, it caused me an insane amount of anxiety. I quite frankly think this might have been one of the least enjoyable summers for my kids and myself, simply because I felt like I had to be at my computer doing things, certain hours. And the reality is that's not what I'm trying to build. That's not why I'm doing any of this. And so allowing myself the awareness to say, you know what, when you're doing something, when you're creating something, you are building it within your own vision. And so don't get regimented to thinking that you have to do it a certain way. You know, naturally, if you have work hours, respect those. If I am working with a contract and they are a school and they do have certain hours, obviously there are certain times I need to be available. If I'm working with a contract that's in a different time zone, I have some days that I am working later hours, and on the flip side, I might have a really early meeting. But allowing that flexibility in my schedule to say, you know what, I can get up, I can work out, I can make my kids breakfast, get them on the bus, and then I can sit down and really deep dive into my work. And then I can stop when they're home. And in the evening, I do enjoy picking things up and working and, putting down all the ideas that have come through the day. That's okay. I no longer have to feel like it's a problem that I'm a night owl because I have to get up at 4:35 in the morning to get everybody out the door and head to work, 45-minute commute. That's not the reality for me. And so even if it is something that you are tied to a more strict schedule, allow yourself the grace to say, in the midst of that day, when am I stopping and taking time for myself? When am I stopping and taking a walk around my building? That was something I was really good at when I worked in schools. A colleague and I would get up and we would just do a lap because we had to. We knew that the movement was what needed to get our mind, the blood flow, so that the afternoon energy would be there. So make sure that if you are somebody with more of a loose-ended calendar or loose schedule, that you own your time. Don't let your time own you. Same thing with my calendar. There are certain days I do not have open for any meetings. There are certain hours I blocked off. I no longer am going to take a call when my kid's bus arrival time is, because if it's raining, my kid's bus pickup is a good quarter mile down the road. So I'm not going to have them walk home, call me what you want, but I have the ability to be there for them. So I want to be able to. On the flip side, if they have an after-school activity, I want to be able to pick them up. That's a lot of why I'm doing this. So make sure that you are owning your calendar, you're owning your day, you're respecting your time every bit as you want to build that dream. Because right now, my biggest advocate, my biggest allies are my family, and I refuse to let them be left beside in all of this. So that was my first failure, was trying to stick to a schedule that just wasn't going to make sense for the place in my career and my life that we are right now. The second biggest failure for me was saying yes. I know that seems ridiculous, but I was starting to say yes because I thought I had to. I was focusing more on those short-term wins, thinking, okay, well, I know I can do this for them, so let me go ahead and take it on. I know this will get me a little bit of money, a little income that'll help pad things while the bigger vision grows. I can take that on. Next thing I know, I am drowning in all the things for everybody but myself. So you need to make sure that you start saying no, so you can go on your vision, your goals, your dreams. You know, the idea of saying yes and is very powerful. You just need to make sure that you understand the impact of your yes. So know when it's going to help grow you toward your goals. There are some projects I have said yes to that are very aligned. You know, it might be in support of somebody else's organization, but at the end of the day, it is still fitting under the umbrella of creativity and empowerment and empathetic leadership that I am doing. So similarly, I do podcast production. Naturally, I am on podcasts. I am building my own. I love that work. So that is not something that I am afraid to say yes to, because it fits under that creative outlet for me. But it's important that I started to recognize that feeling of saying yes to things out of fear that nothing else was coming my way versus saying yes because it was aligned. This is the same when you're looking for a job. Are you saying yes to an opportunity because it's the one you want, or because it's the one that presented itself? You have the option to say no, and if it doesn't feel right, say no so you can go. Just remember that. That has been one of my mantras. I just basically, the thing I've equated it to is being a pinball machine. I have really pulled back. You know, I'm like pulling on that, I'm going to call it a handle for sake of simplicity, but pulling back on that to slowly retract, pulling away from things, because I know I needed that slow down to build my own momentum so I could take off and start pinging all over in the things that were aligned with what my vision and goals are. So writing children's books, working on another book, journals, this mastermind cruise that I am so freaking excited to officially announce and share the details of, but getting people connected with that curiosity and creativity within themselves. But I had to slow down and pull back. I had to start saying no. And it felt uncomfortable and it felt mean, but the reality is people understood. If anything, they were like, I am so excited for you. I am so bummed about our loss and getting to continue this work. And that's okay. Take that as a compliment. Hear the part where they say they're excited for you. And that goes into the next failure for me. Number 3 was accepting less. You know, I was starting to say yes to things that really weren't valuing myself or my time. This means both financial and friendship. I was feeling like I was just saying yes because it was the nice thing to do. In turn, I had people that were really disrespecting my time, disrespecting my kindness, and I got tired of it. And I started to just lose that happiness. Again, not fair to my family and certainly not fair to myself and my goals. And so instead of accepting less, I realized that what I need to do is start accepting more. Now, I know this seems weird because before I was saying say no, don't say yes. But now I'm saying, instead of accepting less financially and less from people in friendship, start only accepting more. Start thinking about, what is your value? How are you going to make sure that your gifts are respected? And quite frankly, I think that people will pay for what they respect. And so you deserve that respect and compensation. Likewise, don't give away your gift of friendship and kindness to those that don't value it. Now, hear me out. I am a mom that is trying to build a business, that is coaching and doing all these fun things. I am not always the best at reaching out and following up with texts. I work from my phone, and there are sometimes I just literally feel like I don't have it in me. Don't mean it out of disrespect. So I try to make sure to separate the reality of life being challenging and we aren't always able to respond instantly from the fact that you will give and give and give, and there are some people that will never make you feel like it is enough. That's when you need to stop accepting it. You need to make sure that connecting is with purpose, that you are really finding the authentic relationships. And one thing will say, this past year has taught me that sometimes connecting without a purpose can actually lead to most authentic relationships. What I mean by that is going into these masterminds, which yes, are purpose-driven with individual goals, but meeting people that I really didn't have much in common with. I didn't know them prior to these events. Yet they have become some of my biggest allies, some of the ones that are cheering for me, the ones that will reach out blindly, and I will reach out to them and say, I am rooting for you. I cannot wait to see this magic happen for you. Sometimes it is really hard for the people closest to us and the ones that have known us the longest to really understand the evolution that we're making. And for some people, they're actually intimidated by it. I saw that very clearly this year by somebody that I thought was a valued friend and yet completely disappeared anytime I started to get the momentum. When things started to fall apart for me, guess who shows up? But that's not what I want to play. I don't want to play this, I'm the hero. I want people that want me to win, that want me to do big and keep evolving and growing. And so while I say connect with purpose, connect with your purpose, but connecting with people without knowing I need them for this sale, I need them for this project, I need them because they're my kid's coach and I want to be good on the team, whatever nonsense we feed ourselves. Sometimes it's okay to connect without purpose and find that genuine kindness in people. This goes back to the idea of a personal board of directors. Who are you surrounding yourself? What are the diverse perspectives and backgrounds that are going to give you that unguarded opinion, that are going to give you the feedback, the praise, the critical criticism that is meant to help you grow, the humor? I love when we were at an event with Off to Neverland Travel. We were at the summit and we had a speaker who will be on this podcast soon. And one of the things she included in the board of directors conversation was the weirdos. I loved that she included that because yes, we need the humorists, we need the goofballs, we need the ones that keep us lighthearted and level because life is challenging. There are so many things that could be thrown in our way and derail us. So remember that sometimes accepting more from people and from the financial side is exactly what you need. Stop accepting less. You are worth it and you deserve it. The next piece, number 4 failure, not asking for help. My goodness, am I hard-headed. I've been told this for years. I'm strong-willed, that I can be stubborn, all those things that it takes to really be an entrepreneur, I'll be honest. And I don't regret any of that, except this year I have realized that if I don't ask for help, I'm not going to get anywhere near where I see myself going and the opportunities I see bringing people. So one of the goals I had on my vision board was to hire somebody, to get to a point where I could hire. And while I'm not where I would like to be, I know it's because I was not asking for help. I didn't want to admit because I thought I could do it alone. And yet, when I look around at all these other people doing fantastic things, they have help. Nobody's doing it alone. So the more that you accept that you are going to be better off when you have a crew ready to carry you. Just like I said, finding those authentic relationships, that board of directors, lean in on them, ask them for help, and don't ever be ashamed for it. And if it's not just a one-time support, conversation, mental peace, hire help. I am here today finally at a point where I have built SOPs for support that I've got coming in, and I know this is what I've needed to do. I just didn't give myself the time to build it, because in my mind I'm like, I don't have time for that. Well, goodness, helping train somebody one time, knowing I'll be an ongoing support for them, but spending one deep dive with them to onboard into this initial scope of work is going to actually save me hours every week, because they will be able to take this very specific task and help me build it out more intentionally, so I can get back to the creative tasks, to the different consulting and coaching work I'm doing, to the things that I love and I want to grow. So by passing off some of the things that I don't enjoy spending time on, that feel like the energy sucker, I am now able to free myself to go out and scale. And that's, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, that's what you want. You want to have sustainable growth. So if you are not asking for help, you need to ask yourself why. Ask for help. It's okay, and it is exactly what will help you get to the next level. Number 5, doing what I thought people would want from me. The old trap of, man, I know that this is something I see a lot of people doing. Okay, let's think about it from the algorithm notion. I see a lot of things filtering through on Instagram, for example, where it'll give me all these suggestions about coaching and what different courses you could build and this and that. So I thought, okay, maybe that's what I should be doing. Maybe that's what I am needing to give people, But the reality is, fitting in is what killed my passion. Trying to do these things that I thought people might want from me actually started to pull people away from me. And I don't know if they knew it intentionally or not, but I started to notice the ones that were there and that were cheering for me. I think I started to, I know actually for myself, I started to pull further back from what I was authentically leading with and shifting into that robot mode again. And I was all over the place. I know I was annoying myself. Like, what are you talking about, Katie? You're trying to be something and somebody you're not. And so just because I can do something doesn't mean I want to, and it certainly doesn't mean I have to. We all need to do a better job at recognizing when we're doing things because we want to or because we think we should be. And we often underestimate the possibilities that exist for us. We think that we aren't good enough, that we aren't qualified enough. I help people all the time in my work coaching one-on-one with them and helping them see that the biggest limits are the ones in our mind. The reality is people see the unique skills we have. We are so close to it, we often ignore it. We underestimate what is out there. So instead of doing what you think people would want from you, shift that and start doing what lights you up, and the right people, the right clients, the right individuals that you want to be surrounded by will show up. You might lose a few people along the way, but those aren't your people. They could still be your friends, they might still be your family, but if they don't understand your mission, but yet you're finding that you are lit up by the ones that do seem to get it, it's okay. Start small and you'll grow, but make sure you're starting in a place that is where you want to be growing, not where you think others want you to be. You will burn out so fast. It will not be good for anybody. All right, and number 6, I had to take a quick pause because the dog was barking, and that's nothing anybody needs to hear. Anyhow, number 6 on this fabulous list of failures is not trusting myself. Now listen, we are a product of our past, our childhood, our hobbies, our athletics, our any extracurricular, our passions, our friends, our professional pursuits. All of those experiences have led us to where we are now. The problem is we tend to basically live in a funnel where the further away from exploring those passions and opportunities we get, the more narrow our scope becomes. We start to look around in our smaller communities, or we start to look around specifically at the people we're surrounded by, or we get caught in the trap of algorithms and thinking that what we see in front of us is the world. And yet our gut tells us something is not right. And we have to start paying more attention to that inner feeling, that inner voice, that conscience, the little Jiminy Cricket that's like, wait a minute, something's off here. Imposter syndrome is very real for me. I know I talked about it a bit in episode 36, and it's something that a lot of people actually was really kind of, it warmed my heart a bit, but at the same time it was really sad to hear how many of you also have really struggled with this. But the thing is, we are who we are, and our experiences are valid, and your passions are valid. And just because I have a passion for designing this business, I may not have all the experience yet, but that passion is something that others don't have. So I should not feel like an imposter. I am doing the thing. This is something that Hannah Chapman, who is also on the show, helps me remember often. You are doing the thing. And so quiet that imposter and start living authentically and trusting yourself. There was a period of time, more recent months, where I actually have become very isolated because I noticed I was not trusting myself. I wasn't listening to my heart and my passions, and I was not, quite frankly, embracing my own spark, and it was upsetting me. This went back to saying no. I had to really, I chose to isolate myself. And when I say isolate myself, I mean, I stopped listening to podcasts. I was unenrolling in free and paid groups. I stopped going to networking events. I basically shut out the noise of the world. I needed it quiet because I no longer was even confident in what I was doing. It is very easy as an empath to become this chameleon and take on the environment I am in. And as much as I love connecting with others and exploring the world, I was finding myself constantly morphing to where I was like, well, I could do this, or I could do that, or they told me I'm good at this, or they said I'm good at that. And we all need to be aware of when situations are no longer serving us well. So taking the time to quiet that noise, pulling back when you're no longer trusting yourself, and when you recognize you might be in a vulnerable space, whether it's because you feel like your job's on the line, or you have left your job and are building a business, and quite frankly, any kind of dollar is very valuable right now. It's easy to get sucked into, well, I think that maybe is the right thing to do. But if it doesn't feel right, trust yourself. Protect your vision and your peace. If it means disconnecting for a while, do it. Because the right people will still be there. And they have been, and I cannot tell you how wonderful it feels. It is hard at times because I want to explain to people that, listen, it's the classic, it's not you, it's me, really. But the ones that see the work being put in and see what's coming out on the other side, they get it. And I love every single one of you that have reached out or haven't, even sometimes just that simple, acknowledgement in whatever little ways it is. Most of my friends, we joke about this. Shout out to Jess and Jen, because I swear we only communicate through memes, and it may be once every 5 days. Do you have friendships like that where you love them like crazy, and yet there are times when the conversation, actually I just sent a full Christmas message that was basically, we'll call it GIF, because I don't want to get in the argument of what it's called, but we'll have that where we are so lost in that tunnel of self that we only communicate with these very small snippets. It's okay. It's not ideal, and it's not something you want to do long term. Make sure to take time for yourself, but remember to protect your peace. And if that means protecting your vision, your goals, and isolating yourself for a little while, do it. Okay, it's much easier to say, oh, sure, I'll do it and take something on because, if you're like me, you can and you will figure it out. But you have to start asking yourself, whose dream am I building? Theirs or mine? So, this year, as amazing as it has been in many ways, going on several cruises, getting to start to see the vision of the mastermind cruise that I'm building out, getting to become a best-selling author and working on 2 more books, getting to start launching events for kids to make sure they remain confident and curious little creatures, because listen, they are our future. In so many ways, this has been a very powerful year for my business. So, with those failings, I'm going to remember and I'm going to remind you that these failures are simply lessons into what is possible. Never let them slow you down. So, with that, I wish you well. I cannot wait to hear your failures. So please send me a couple of the failures you've had this year and just a little snippet of the lesson you've learned, because those failures really are your next greatest success. As always, be well, stay curious, and I'll see you next year.
Walt Disney was rejected over 300 times before Mickey Mouse was a success.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Later, Tater.